Ship Shape. My name is Cole Hanson, and I'm a public health educator with Anoka County Public Health. And I am an advocate for all things wellness, but most importantly, workplace wellness and wellness for all the folks who live, work, and play in Anoka County. One of the biggest pieces of that is our employers and our organization partners in Anoka County. And so I'm super excited to host this welcome roundtable with a handful of our wonderful partners through Anoka County Public Health and our SHIP program. And I'll introduce them one by one. So welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Good
Thanks,
to meet
Paul.
you all. And let's work our way from here, Susan, to Jesse, and then Casey over here at the end.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Susan Yee, and I'm with the Rum River Art Center, and we are excited. We actually did 2 programs with you. But the Rum River Art Center is a nonprofit art center located in the city of Anoka, and we've been there since 2009. Became a nonprofit in 2012. We became aware of your program, I believe it was 2 years ago, right pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, whatever you want to call it. And it just came, it was like the perfect opportunity to really look inside our organization and what mental health and wellness meant for everybody.
Wonderful. How about you, Jesse?
Thanks, Cole. So hi, I'm Jessie Gurr. I'm the owner at Iceberg Web Design. We are a website development and marketing firm downtown Anoka, Minnesota. We work with a lot of local businesses, but we also kind of have a national and even international reach. We're currently a team of 10 penguins, and one of the things that we really value is balance, work-life balance. And so finding Cole and the Anoka SHIP program through the Anoka Chamber was a really great way for us to take some of our values and bring them actually into the workplace. So we are located downtown Anoka, but our team is completely hybrid right now. We have the liberty to choose whether we want to work at home or whether we want to come in. And so there's a really nice, healthy mix of both of them. So I'm super excited to talk with you today and to learn more about the other businesses that have been working with SHIP as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jesse. And Casey?
Yeah, my name is Casey Kai, and K Mama sauce is a vegan Korean hot sauce made from my mom's recipe. MSG-free, non-GMO, super healthy. We have gluten-free options. I met Cole at also an Anoka County Chamber meeting, and just kind of rattled off all the things that I really held to be very valuable in just life, I think, not just in the workplace. So we connected there, and before we even launched my hot sauce business, I was very committed to giving back to our local community, but also making sure that we take care of our employees. So before we started, we knew that we wanted to partner with someone like SHIP and Cole. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And we will be doing a section 2 as well on one of our field partners, Live Organically Farming, with Lakeisha Witter, who is kind of pioneering mental health and well-being in an agricultural setting, kind of an unusual place to combine those two things, but that's Anoka for you. But with all of you, I wanted to start. So we all kind of did a brief background on your organizations, but kind of where did your organization start, and why here in Anoka rather than maybe up in the Boundary Waters, up in the North Shore, or down in Minneapolis or St. Paul? Like, why Anoka? Why Anoka County?
Well, I can say for us, my husband and I founded the Art Center in 2009, but we have been always business owners, et cetera, and we had space in the old milk factory building in Anoka. And my husband has a art degree. We'd been in corporate, and he said, you know what? I would like to get back into the art world and creating more. So we had the space, and we just kind of looked around in the community to see what was going on. But I will say he did test it out first. He taught some art classes at some schools, and he has a way with children. And the parents started asking him, well, do you do classes in the summer? And so it became this idea of, we have extra office space. Let's turn it into an art studio. So we did, and it's actually just blossomed. So,
That's so cool.
Here we are, in 2022, and it is exploded. I was talking to Jesse this morning. You know, one of the things we have is a summer art camp. We have over 650 kids this summer.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
That's so many kids.
Which is why I need mental health and wellness.
Yes, yes.
Don't get me wrong, they're great kids, but
Yeah.
you see them all day.
Yeah. And so, but the art center itself it sounds like it was not where you started, but you came to the art center and this kind of arts approach later after a professional career. So this is
Exactly,
Yeah.
because, and I think it's where you're saying is, we realized that being in a corporate environment was just not healthy. You know, I was working probably, 7 days a week.
yeah,
10, 12 hours a day. My husband, the same thing.
grinding away.
And you're just like, okay, what am I getting out of this? I
Yeah.
come home, I have to leave the house an hour early just to get to work on time.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of like, for what? For this 9 to 5 job that ends up being, 7 to 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, my brain needs to shut down. And for my husband, it was natural, going back to art.
Sure.
And I tell people all the time, we have something called a free family art day. And I'll tell you, it's the parents that don't want to leave, because they get to sit there and draw. Nothing is disturbing them. The kids aren't bothering them because they're just as busy
Yeah, kids are busy.
coloring, painting,
coloring,
whatever.
yeah.
And the parents just, like, okay, no one's asking me what's
Very
for
moment
dinner.
of zen, just to relax.
No one's saying, I'm hungry. It's just, they're all on their own, and it's funny because I can see how it clicks in the adult's mind, like, oh, I can just sit here
Yeah.
and not think about the stress of my life.
Sure.
And it really
That's
makes a
awesome.
difference.
So we've got kind of the hands-on art of the art center, but Jesse, you're kind of creating digital art with all these websites and web design.
We are.
Kind of what's the story with Iceberg?
Yeah, so I started at Iceberg back in 2005 in Morris, Minnesota, actually, where I went to college. And so why we're here now and where we are, I mean, it's all very similar to Susan. I mean, this is home for me. My mom grew up in Anoka County, actually, where the Andover High School is right now. My uncle owns a farm right there. My mom graduated from Anoka High School back in the 1960s. And so this is really just home for me. And why we started, why we are where we are today, again, it just boils down to passion. I started Iceberg because I loved building sites. I loved working with small business owners. I loved helping businesses grow. And my passion for that kind of morphed into a passion for creating businesses and creating opportunities for employees and others in the community. And so that passion is really what drives us. A lot of our employees are local. So while we're hybrid, we do have a lot of people right here in the North Metro Twin Cities area. Of course, we work with contractors and even employees out of state from time to time, which is an advantage in the digital world.
Yeah.
And so ensuring that people feel passionate about what they're doing, they want to come to work, they like what they're doing. Is one of the things that keeps us going, and incorporating, health and wellness into that is definitely a great retention tool and just a great way to ensure that you're doing right by your employees. And when you do right by your team, they do right by your customers.
Well, and I was going to say, it helps that you're right on Jackson and Anoka because you have a
Yes.
beautiful space, those big windows, so you've got an incentive for people to come in because it is not a box.
We do.
It's a lovely space.
Yes, it's a gorgeous view of the dam too, and we like to kind of, see through as the seasons change, kind of keep tabs on how much water's flowing over the dam and when it freezes over, and yeah, it's nice.
That's so cool. And so Casey, we've got K-Mama sauce, and I know you've got your office in Anoka, but obviously you're picking up the sauce at the grocery store. You're able to get it a bunch of different places. So, why in Anoka? But importantly, what's the story behind? Tell us a little more about K-Mama.
Sure. Well, I always tell people I'm a Jersey boy selling Korean hot sauce in Minnesota, so that's a fun conversation starter.
That's the story of Anoka right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It's really, I moved here in 2010, and I had several different careers in nonprofits, but also in fundraising, but also in government stuff. And I just realized, you know what, I love Korean food and I love hot sauces. And my mentor said, hey, you should totally combine that passion and launch a business. And so The Anoka County reasoning was I partnered with a church, and I have this really beautiful synergistic relationship with this church called Church of All Nations, located in Anoka County. So they lend us space, and there's a ton of volunteers, and I'm unofficially on staff there. So just to start off and having that much support and advocacy in 2015 when we launched, and knowing and realizing, even before we sold our first bottle of sauce, we wanted to give 30% of our profits back to that local church, but also a lot of other charities involved in Anoka County and elsewhere.
That's amazing. And so Church of All Nations, again, I'm a perennial tourist, so I'm just going to say this again and again, but if you get a chance, you should really visit because it is a remarkable location. It's right on a lake. You've got beautiful gardens. You've got it, and it's not just your vegetables, but there's herbs. There's all sorts of really cool stuff, and there's multiple businesses and organizations kind of housed within the kind of mothership church, as it were. Am I right with that?
Yeah, that's correct. So 26 raised beds. We're doing some food production. It's really neat how things have evolved with local interests, and it's really about the champions and advocating for themselves and for good causes. So we have a bread business. We have like gifts and a consignment store. But I think it all really was mastered by my mentor and the pastor there, Reverend Jin S. Kim, and he and I connected in 2009. That's the reason why I moved out here in the first place in Minnesota. Just never thought I would launch a food business, but it's really green space here to launch businesses, but also food businesses, obviously with the big food companies in town, but just tons of resources, and SHIP couldn't have come at a better time as well.
Yeah, well, that's amazing, and I personally have the sauce in my fridge, so
Thank you.
So Jesse, but I wanted to come back to you. So we're kind of talking about two environments here where you can't do art center remotely, right? You can't do the sauce company remotely, but you can do web design and web work remotely. But you're doing this hybrid thing. How does that shape the culture at Iceberg, and how does that change your approach to wellness?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Cole. The hybrid working arrangement is relatively new to us within the last 3 years. 2.5, 3 years ago, we were very much focused on coming into the office every day and having that interpersonal conversations. And so for us, it really just boils down to solid communication. And being digital, we were able to adapt pretty quickly to learning new tools. So we do a lot of connecting over Zoom. We use Slack as a tool, and Slack has a really nice video calling feature built into it, so our team members, can constantly talk to each other. It's great to see when I log on in the morning to our Slack, I'll see, 6 people, and your status icon changes to on a phone call. So you can just see that people are communicating and talking with each other. We created a health and wellness channel in our Slack, our communication tool.
I was going to say, we should debrief. We use Slack a lot. So Slack is just like a chat room, right?
Slack is like an asynchronous communication tool, kind of like a chat room. Yep, you can have basically different channels or different rooms that different team members can participate in. So for us, for example, we have a channel just for the production team. So people who are actively working on website development have their own sort of space to work. And so not everybody necessarily is part of that. Our sales, who's out there doing the sales and
then you've got like the water cooler chat.
We've got the chat where people post their gifts and their memes and pictures of their puppies and their kids goes on a lot.
Yes, all the good stuff. Yeah.
Yes, cool. And so we have a health and wellness channel, and when we were working with SHIP, we really were keeping people updated through there. What types of things would you use as an employee if you're in the office? What can we give you to take home with you? What can we have available in the office to encourage you to come in and take advantage of the hybrid workspace? So
how did that experience go, actually asking your employees? Because I know a lot of organizations I come to, they're just like, what can what can the county do? What can you tell me to do? But one of the things that we really focus on with SHIP is really having you ask your employees and the end users, like, what are they going to need? And I know you're a web designer, so you're used to thinking of what the end user is going to see. How does that impact your conversations with them?
Yeah, so we were tailoring it more to our staff, and how can we provide you with resources and tools that will help you, do a better job throughout your day. So immediately when we started talking, standing desks came out. And
Super common.
yeah, and that was just one of the things, like we sit down, we're typing all day long, we get hunched over shoulders, like what can we do to continue our work day, but like take a break from that sitting? And so one of the things that we ended up securing through our SHIP grant was just a couple of standing desks, and they're placed right in a very central space in the room. Since we're hybrid, everybody's using laptops now, so we're super mobile even in the office. We
I was
have
going to say,
people
it's like a
moving
check-in,
around.
check-out sort of the system.
Yeah, so we can just, pick up and if people want to collaborate together rather than sitting across the room talking or sliding up a chair, they can actually stand up, take their laptops over to the standing desks and side by side and, spend 30, 45 minutes in a better ergonomic position, just collaborating on projects.
Yeah. And so it wasn't just a standing desk, though, because something else came up, because you used to have a bunch of people wheeling in.
We did,
Work.
yeah. So we got a couple of bicycles, which was super exciting.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that was something that I had no idea. And thanks to Cole and thanks to Anoka Ship for even making that, a possibility and known. We have the ability to, bike to the sandwich shop to get lunch, or take an afternoon bike ride. Anoka has some gorgeous trails, as you know. It's just a fantastic place to get outside and enjoy. Great for mental health, great for physical health, all of those things. So just to be able to take a walk or take a bike ride down by the river in the middle of the day, kind of break up the workful, has been fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really great to hear, because another piece of what we do with Anoka County is we have our commute solutions folks. So, a lot of the work that we do when it comes to things like biking comes down to not only like how can we improve health, but how can we cut commute times?
Right.
Because no one likes commuting either. So a lot of those projects, it's kind of fun to work with other parts of the county and other parts of not only just kind of the government side, but the nonprofit and for-profit sides, and figure out like, how can we make it work for everybody? But that's cool. So I'm always excited to stop by because I see the bikes and they look used, which everybody loves that. So wonderful. And then, but more broadly, I guess for all of you, and whoever wants to take it first can. Like, what makes wellness a priority for your organization? Is it something you drive or?
Yeah, I'd say as a business, it's like, they teach you in business school, it's really about the bottom line. And I think that just, as previously mentioned, it just creates a drain, and there's an easy burnout. And it's hard to have a no burnout policy, but I think we are invested, because we're drawing up a kind of a plan to say, hey, before we start and before we launch this business, we want to be very intentional about, and one of our advisors is Ben & Jerry's, and they have this really cool model called the stakeholders model. And everyone's a stakeholder, starting from the business, but the vendors, the suppliers, also the consumers, and also all the agencies that are involved, so including Anoka County. And I think that, if everyone's a stakeholder, then everyone has impact, and then everyone has a stake and an investment, I guess if you want to say, in how, obviously we're just one company, but all of us create this together. So when you think of a bottom line, as we call it, a triple bottom line, in terms of not just the profits, but also the wellness of our employees, and then also the wellness of the consumer and other agencies that are involved. I think that was what was really enticing for me as we were starting to draw up and brainstorm some ideas, not just like, practically speaking, of course, like let's do a break room refresh, but I think just being intentional is what really matters, especially as a founder employer. It's like little things, and the workers and customers, they're not going to notice immediately, but that I think it's about the general feel about not just the mission and the vision of a company, but it's when you walk into the office, are things generally tidy or neat or placed intentionally for the benefit of the employers, and I think they do. I think it's those small differences, and so we wanted to be brainstorming with those kinds of things up front.
Sure. Anybody else? What makes wellness a priority for you, or how do you kind of bring that in your business?
Well, I'm going to say at the Art Center, I think for us, healthy, happy employees make a huge difference. And as I was saying, we have all these kids this summer. So we have a break room where anybody can go up and just chill. There's snacks, water, etc. But you can go in and chill, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You know that you can go in there and not be disturbed. and just get yourself back into the game. And I think the other part of that is that when you have people when you work with people and you know that anytime you need to get away, that you can, that your well-being is more important than anything else. I mean, we have, we actually do Zoom as well. And we've always made it a policy. Number one, we did lots of classes. So if we had teachers that don't want to come in, we can do it as a Zoom class. If you are having a day you wake up and go, gosh, I can't go in. I can't do it today. Then you don't have to come in.
That's huge.
I mean, I will say, the one thing that we have, that we offer for all of our, I want to say employees, but it's really family, because I tell anybody that I hear this all the time too, that when you walk into the Art Center, it's like family. It's like a community. And, for anybody that works with us, you can say, hey, I can't make it in today. It's not going to work for me. And that's okay. We have everything flexible, because I think that for us to have survived this long is because we make it a great working environment. I mean, I think we all know we've had jobs where you wake up and you go in because you have to. You have no choice.
Yeah.
And, you have to pay the bills, whatever it is.
Got to buckle up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to bite the bullet and go, okay, I have to go in. Whereas we make it like you want to go in.
Sure.
I mean, our office manager, it's funny, we had this conversation yesterday, and I think that it just shows how flexible and easy it is. We were talking and we realized she has been with us for 8.5 years, because she's had her 2 kids while she's been with us. And just to give you an idea, when we hired her, she came into work, I think it was like on a Monday. And her name's Lindsay, she's great. And I think it was on Thursday, she called us and she said, Susan? I'm like, yeah. And of course my mind is going,
Sure.
She quit, she can't.
That's how every conversation
Right.
starts,
It's
with
like-
the first name.
And she says,
Yeah.
my water broke, I'm not coming in.
Whoa.
Exciting.
That's
And
a
this was
big-
like her third day
That's a
of
big
work.
third day at work.
Right? I mean, and that's why we try to let people know, it's a family, it's a community. We are gonna work with you. We want you to be happy, because, mentally happy people, you work better, you function better, because it's not gonna be the end of the world. And we'll say, you know what? That piece of paper is not gonna go away.
Yeah.
But you can walk away from it just to chill.
Yeah.
I could go on and on, but, I think that, mental health is just so important. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, and we all have bad days, and I will tell people that come in, like, okay, you guys, don't come into my office for like an hour, because, I'm having a bad day. I need to chill. I
Sure.
need to go take a walk, take a yoga break, something. But you want it to be a great environment for everyone.
Yeah.
Whether it's an employee or whether it's someone that's, taking an art class.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think you both hit the nail right on the head there, and I could echo everything you said. I mean, from what you have available for snacks, for break room facilities in your office to keep your employees engaged, sustained throughout the day. And yes, it really is like running a family.
It is.
And I mean, you think about it, you spend 8 hours a day working with, communicating with sometimes people that you see more than your extended family, for sure.
So true.
Sometimes even more than your immediate family. And so in order, to foster a workplace where people are comfortable sharing their feelings, if they're having a bad day and they just need a personal mental day off, to have a safe space where they can say that and feel like they're able to, take the time that they need for their health. We also really encourage vacations. We encourage time off. My head of operations, Marianne, is known for saying, hey, Josh hasn't had a vacation for 5 or 6 months. We should probably follow up with him and see, what's next on his
I wonder
horizon.
in my office. I want someone doing that for me.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I think it's really, really cool to hear this, because I think we're all very much on the same page in terms of respecting and honoring our employees, their mental health,
Exactly.
their physical health, and just wanting to provide a safe workspace for them.
And so to tee up kind of this, my next question, I mean, you're all running small operations, right? How many employees does each one of you kind of hire, and we can talk about volunteers too, but like paid employees, how many do you have on staff?
We have currently 10 W-2 employees, and we're about to take on a new developer in the next month.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have myself and my wife who are the owners, so we work on it day to day, but we have somewhere between 2 and 4 part-time folks
Yeah.
that are helping us out.
Okay.
And we have around 30. And I have to say, I have to preface this with, when my husband started this art center, really, I will say it's his passion, and I came along for the ride, luckily. One of his beliefs, and I think that's what makes it all important when you talk about health and wellness, is that he wanted to make anybody that we hired, any of the artists we hired, as employees, so that they would be able to get any
That's-
benefits.
Yep.
That's huge,
And-
especially for a nonprofit. It's a lot of
Exactly.
work to get to that place.
So, when COVID hit, they were eligible if they wanted, for unemployment, et cetera. But that was his goal, that teaching artists made a working wage.
Well, it's worth paying someone. for their work.
Exactly. Yes, paying their worth and being employees, so they wouldn't have to worry about, do I have enough money at the end of the year to pay my taxes as a contract labor?
Yep, that's huge.
So, yeah, around 30-ish now.
So because, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's more people than I thought.
Most people don't realize
Yeah.
all of our staff, all of our teachers, they're staff.
But either way, you all have under 50. I mean,
Yes.
normally when we talk
Yeah.
about like a big employer for SHIP, it's like 100 employees plus, right? But you're all running kind of hands-on operation. You see almost everyone you work with every
Absolutely.
week, if not every day. But you're also doing your regular work, right? You're also contributing to the things that go on in your office. How does, for organizations of your size and your complexity and what you're up to, like how do you kind of fit in wellness and prioritizing those things, right? Casey, you mentioned you got to be intentional about it. Like, how do you do that when you're not just the CEO or the boss, but you're also like, you're a developer too, or you're working on a recipe or trying to manage labor questions or just get those W-2s out on time. Like, how do you do it all? And then this next piece that's, not just extra credit, but like really essential stuff.
Yeah, so I think that modeling comes from the top down on that. So I personally schedule time to train I'm currently training for a marathon run. So I block off time on my work calendar for that. And so my employees know, Jessie's on the streets right now. I'm not gonna reach out to her. And just kind of modeling that behavior, I see yoga classes, I see swimming lessons go on my employees' calendars, and so I see, we encourage people, you need to take your kids to the dentist, just do it during business hours. It's a hassle to try to schedule,
Right, yeah.
your dentist appointments
And
after
good luck
hours.
finding a dentist.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
for business hours.
And so we're just, we expect people to use their business calendars to put their personal appointments when they need them on there. And I think
That's awesome.
that's just a way to make sure that you're able to balance your work and your home life.
That's really great, and that's cool to hear that you're like kind of showing by doing. I think that's really cool. Casey, so how about you all, Casey?
Yeah, so I think it's 2 parts because we do partner with a factory and we third party some of that labor off. But I think generally speaking, when we talked, Cole, it was really fun because I think as an entrepreneur, maybe serial entrepreneur, it's fun to ideate. They call it ideation, like just brainstorming. Like, how can we solve this problem? The problem being people burning out quicker. Their bodies are all broken. Just like there's all these things that we can do preventatively. But I think that initial time to block away, as you mentioned, is really crucial. I'm gonna just take an hour to think about this problem, and just to have that. I mean, sometimes it's a luxury to be out of the work for a little bit, but really the benefits of that obviously are now coming into full effect and trickling down to everybody. But I think that initial no, this is worth it and this is valuable was really crucial. And so as we kind of ideated it further, and this makes more sense in the break room, and this is a really good launching point for others. It was I think that was the best part. It was really to understand, oh man, like I need to take stock of my own self. And I think other people will also appreciate that too, if they have similar desires and different needs. And that goes with the factory that we partner with in Northeast Minneapolis. Is you asked me like, have they heard of this program? It's a different county, but we could pass along some names, but just even to have a conversation about how they've been doing it. It's a third generation factory, so they certainly have things in process over time that's really kind of cemented in the workflow. But for us, it was like, hey, this is a really great idea. Brainstorming, coming to problem solving essentially, and have you guys thought about this? And so that was really fun to just say, we don't have complete control over their staff, but just to pass along a really good word to say, hey, this was really beneficial in so many ways. Think about that.
That's really cool, because I mean, you think about kind of the ripple effects of the kind of things we're talking about today, and that sounds like a really interesting one where, this factory is in a different county, right? They have different way of doing things, and but if one of their customers, one of their big clients comes to them and says, hey, well-being is a priority for me and my company, we need it to be a priority for the folks who are ultimately making our company successful too. I think that's huge, and that speaks to kind of making it, again, that intentionality you've been speaking about. Also the fact that none of us know how all this works all the time, and kind of learning as we go and iterating on what works and what doesn't. I think that's a big part of business, but that's just a big part of making your way through the world is learning that sort of thing. And Susan, so at the Art Center, like how are you all making it happen over there?
Well, I think when you're talking about setting examples, and we try to make it, again, a happy place to go to. We're also dog friendly. And I think when you say about setting examples, so for my husband Larry, his thing about his mental well-being is taking the dog for a walk. Mine was always, like, Susan's not going to be in the office till 9 because she does yoga every morning. So then we started kind of talking about, okay, guys, what can we do? Because you all know that I feel better when I've taken a yoga class in the morning and I come to work. My mind is in a total different space. So we worked with the employees saying, what would you like to do? Would you be interested in, our office manager's like, wow, I'd like to do yoga, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
So what we ended up doing with SHIP is we ended up kind of doing a little survey with our employees and said, what would you like to see? What would make you feel better? And I was able to get yoga mats and things like that through SHIP. And we started yoga class. And we made it during working hours. So like you could leave your desk and go upstairs and take a yoga class.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And I think that it made such a huge difference because, like I said, even though sometimes an art center does not seem as stressful, it can be. I'm always telling people, okay, did you clean this or what do we need in supply?
There's a lot of clay dust floating around. Like it's
I mean, even when you talk about clay dust, we put in air filtration systems to take out all the clay dust so that it's a healthier environment. But again, going back to that so we asked what they wanted. So we have the break wellness room, which is upstairs, and then we have a large space that became a yoga studio. So, we have it typically Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and we started inviting like the community, kind of like as a pay what you can.
Sure.
Because one of the things, let's face it, as a person, the first thing you need is shelter and then food. Your mental wellness, your physical wellness is going to be
I was going to say, you're listing the priorities.
It's never going to make it.
Yep.
So by making it a pay whatever you want, or don't if you can't afford to, you can get in that activity. And I think that a lot of people, it does make a difference because, like, they go, oh, I have a place I can go to. It's not going to cost me anything. I can get my physical activity, I can get my head together, because for anybody that takes yoga, they know it's a combination of physical and mental, and it makes a huge difference. And like I said, with both of these too, it's that setting examples. When they see that you're taking the time out and that they can take the time out with no penalties and in their workday, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, and it's pretty, I mean, I found it pretty compelling because, you think art center, you don't think yoga, but it's all of these pieces together. It is a center, right? You're
is.
bringing a lot of resources to Anoka, but also a lot of resources back out into the community that people might not have known that they wanted, that they needed. And you use Zoom as well
Yes, we
sometimes,
do.
so you're able to even bring it to people's homes for folks who are kind of aging at home or aging in place where they might not be able to, get to the art center.
And that's one of the things that we heard, because when the pandemic hit, Larry was smart enough, it hit on like March 13th or whatever.
we all hit
Yep.
March
Right?
13th, right?
Right, and it happened to be that we were having a fundraiser that weekend.
Oh, my.
So we had to cancel. But within a week, we went online to Zoom. We had, I think, 3,000 participants
So you
over the
mean-
course. It went huge.
So you immediately canceled
We
your
immediate-
fundraiser
and
and
every-
ran to Best Buy or whatever.
Yeah,
All the
we
equipment you wanted.
did. We did, and everybody went online to Zoom. We provided cameras and mics for our
Amazing.
teachers.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and of course, me as the money person, I'm like, what? How much does this cost?
You're just like
Right?
screaming.
And it's like all free.
But
I'm
where you've
but you know
gotten
what?
since, where
And
that
I'll tell you,
investment went.
when we started getting emails from people, like, one that just like almost broke my heart reading, she's like, I want you guys to know you saved my life. I was here on my own. Being able to take these art classes with you mentally just changed everything. And we still do, Zoom classes. We still have people that say, I don't want to get out. Or we have people that are across the country and across the world that take our class. But, we started out as an art center, and I think as we all age, you start to look at least for me, you start to look at your life a little bit differently and say, what can I do to give back?
Sure.
So we're slowly turning the art center into a community center. And with Anoka Ship, that has helped us because we've offered yoga classes for the community for free. We were able to do some Tai Chi classes for free.
Yes.
Cool.
And of course, my favorite program is we started a garden.
Yeah. We've got the garden on the roof.
We got
don't
the
ya?
garden. We have a rooftop garden. And I know this wasn't show and tell, but I had to bring today. This is one of
Awesome.
the fruits of labor. We tested it. We got green beans. I brought today and basil.
I'm so
this-
impressed they're doing well because it's been so hot.
Yeah.
Like
Well-
my garden at home is suffering. And you're doing
I
great.
mean, it's I think one of the questions we've talked about too is volunteers. I have an amazing group of volunteers
And I want to come back to that.
that helps us to
Yeah.
do this, but, so,
Yay.
like I said, we
That's
started
cool.
as an art center, we want to become a community resource, because, there's so much going on in the world today, and our belief at the art center is we should all be working together. We're a huge family when it all comes down to it.
Absolutely.
Everybody should be helping each other out wherever you can.
For sure. Now, Casey, I want to come back to the fact that your business is split, right? You're contracting out a lot of that bottling at this other firm. When you're kind of considering your business like that, where you have this kind of core piece of what you do in the office and everybody in one place, and then, you're kind of like, okay, well, we're not going to be the experts in bottling, but these folks are, right? And you're contracting out that part of your business. How did that affect your decision with what to kind of go ahead with and what to identify as a priority for your group?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. It's a tough one. Before we hit this this co-packing, this co-manufacturing relationship, we did all the bottling ourselves.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So Minnesota's a great place, like I said, to start food businesses. Cottage law allows you to start in your home and then you move into a commercial kitchen. We were making thousands on our own, and it's a labor of love, as many of you mentioned,
But
it's
it is a
really
lot of labor.
Yeah, it's a lot of labor, and so when you get to that place, thankfully we after you do the cost benefit analysis, we found this really wonderful partner, but we knew what went into creating an end product that's a hot sauce bottle, right? So at the end of the day, we said, okay, these are the components that go into building out not only the ingredients but then the labor. So I think that really helped us to say. When we approach the conversation, not just within our own office and our workplace employees, this third party, that was a really hard, my brain just went like, to another place when you mentioned that, Cole, because it's like, wow, I totally didn't think of them under kind of the umbrella of our employees because it's contracting. But in many ways, we wouldn't be a bit as successful business without this third party. And so to at least throw that, have that conversation in passing with the owner, but also their employees was a big one. And I think I've done some just door knocking and community activism and organizing that really helped me to understand finding champions and advocates, right? And once you find someone who's really behind it, and you could really, it doesn't have to be completely aligned, but at least some Venn diagram, some overlap to say, no, I think you're right. I think this is going to benefit us in these ways. I mean, they don't have to believe in all the ways,
right?
But just to hear you out and take the time to do that was really, I think it was a really crucial piece. Because I don't know if they've implemented any of those things that we suggested, but at least they know that's available.
Yeah, they don't need to believe in, any piece of wellness, but the material change, right? Are you materially making things better? The good things will follow from there. I'm a big fan of, do and you will learn. You don't necessarily always need to learn and then do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the doing that helps. Well, we're going to take a quick break, so we'll be back in just a minute.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. That was a great piece, and I'm glad that we were all kind of getting to enjoy that. But back to you all. So I had, we're talking about, how the program worked and how your business approaches wellness. But what kind of brought you all to this table is working with SHIP, or the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership through Anoka County. And so, I'll open up the floor to anybody. I know Meeting Me was a part of the process, but more broadly speaking, like, how did it go? Have you, I mean, Susan, you're probably used to grants, but for you two, like, how did it go for this process? Was it what you expected?
Yeah, I'll start. Beyond meeting you at the meeting there, the chamber meeting, I saw an ad, I think, following, because it took, a couple weeks to just kind of register about the program. But then in the blurb in this county newsletter, it said, can help your business, grant. So I think that really stuck out. And after we had met and followed up with a phone conversation, just filling out the paperwork, I think it was pretty straightforward. You kind of went over step by step what it would look like, but I think that time that you spent with me on the phone, like an hour or so, just to say what's going to work, what's actually tangible, what's doable. I think that was really helpful to just say, there's a wish list, there's lesser priorities, and then kind of some sweet spot in the middle. But following up with the paperwork and just kind of a step-by-step process to write out the grant proposal application.
Awesome. Good to know. Like, there's no like zappers in the seats either. So don't feel compelled to like tell the shiniest version of it, because I mean we did have some conversations around kind of limitations, and I know Jesse, that was a big part of our conversation was, you said this and it really stuck out for me. Like, what's going to make this worth it for me as a business owner? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for us the difficult part was figuring out what types of items we could get that would actually get used. Mm-hmm. And being so hybrid and having people at home and in the office, communication is a huge part of our health and wellness. But what could we physically get in the office? And so we opened it up to our staff. I would say the application process was extremely easy, extremely smooth. It was just like, what do you want? Where are you going to buy it? How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take you to put it together? And I was excited to see how much our employees got involved. The standing desks, which I mentioned earlier, came directly from one of our employees. And when we were just kind of talking about things that we could have available in the workspace, the bicycles came up. And that is where I got a lot of great engagement with my team. And the cool thing about SHIP, like you think like we're going to get a grant, we like tell you what we want and you go order it and it shows up. But with the bikes, we actually got to go bike shopping. And so we got to go locally. I took one of my employees with me, and I'm really short and she's really tall. So we got a grant for 2 bicycles, and we walked into a local bike shop and we're like, well, okay, so here's what's happened. We've received a grant. We're not exactly sure how this works, but apparently we can come in here and get bikes.
And you
So
all put it on
right,
Right?
right. And so it was great because we got to actually physically like test ride bikes. We got to pick sizes with seats that move up and down that would work for pretty much anyone in the state, which is hard. You've got 10 people of all
Yep.
different statures
Yep.
trying to figure out how to make 2 bikes work for everybody. And then we're like, well, who's going to go for a bike ride with who? And do we want one shorter bike and one taller bike? But then the process was so easy. We were like, here's the bikes. We need some water bottle holders. We need, the kickstands. And Eric's Bike Shop took care of everything for us. They reached out to Anoka County, filled up the paperwork, and we just got a call, 2 days later? Hey, your bikes are ready. Come on and pick them up. They've been serviced tuned. Good
That's
to go.
awesome.
So it was beyond smooth.
That's-
Props to Anoka County for that. Yeah.
Well, and props to our local vendors too, because a big part of what we do is we try and partner with these local vendors. Eric's isn't as local as maybe like Ramsey Bicycle, and
Right, for sure.
credit to Al over there at Ramsey Cycle. He's helped us a lot with these bike projects, because it's exactly right. Is you want that hands-on touch, that support, especially for something as seemingly simple but actually complicated as building a bike library for your team. And Susan, so you're used to grant land. You're used to filling out 30-page applications.
Exactly.
How is the 3-pager?
Well, I'll tell you, this was probably the easiest grant I've ever written in my life. It was one of those that it was, working with the staff to find out, what do we need, what do we want, is this going to work, is this feasible, et cetera. It's, the whole process. But being able to actually get it and find out about it in, weeks versus sometimes when you fill out a grant,
Yeah.
6 months down the
Yep.
road, we still don't know whether
Yep.
we're going to get it or not.
Yeah.
So this is the easiest grant. So if anybody out there, any business out there wants to look at working with Anoka Ship, it's like so easy.
Yeah, and that's a great thing.
And that is, it's stress-free because you make it so easy.
Well, and so just to kind of share this to anyone, so, if you're running an organization or a business outside of Anoka County, so whether you're in this panel here or beyond, SHIP is in your community too. SHIP is a statewide program funded through a bunch of very exciting legal pieces, but ultimately is administered by local counties and county cooperatives. So, it's not just an Anoka County special feature, but it's really available to organizations statewide. So, I try and keep mine simple. Everybody does something a little bit different. But one piece though is, so we've talked about a lot of the stuff. Right, but before we got to the stuff, there was a lot of, kind of policies and systems that had to change to make it successful. And what we frame our work as policy, systems, environment, or, policies are kind of the written rules of how things work for your employees, right? Your sick leave policy, that sort of thing, breastfeeding policy, all that. Systems are kind of the more informal structures of how things are done, having that person who's reaching out and saying, hey, I just happen to check on people's calendars and make sure they take their vacation. With environment being the stuff, that surrounds us all, right? But the stuff doesn't work without all the background. So, kind of bouncing it all back to you, what sort of policies and systems changes made getting the equipment stick and made that work for your organization? Whoever's interested in taking it first.
Well, I'll just say, when you talk about policies and all that, making it work, I think we were able to make it all work because in our policy, you have the time. So by doing it within your actual schedule versus saying, okay, well, you're not going to get paid for this. By saying, hey, you know what? If you want to take a 9:30 yoga class,
This is a part of working here.
that's right. You
That's
get
huge.
to.
Yeah, it's not just like a volunteer, it is an expectation. Like, if you
Yes.
are here, you're going to take care of yourself, and this is what we have for you. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, and when we first started the program with the yoga classes, our office manager's like, I want to take yoga, but it's at, like 9 o'clock. I'm like, Lindsay, go. That's why it's here. That's why it's here, so you can walk upstairs to take that class.
Right.
don't worry about what's going on down here.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to take that class because you're going to feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
But so I think that that's how we were able to make it easy, by putting it so it works in your schedule. The easiest.
That's great.
So,
I think the timing for this grant was really good for us because we were coming off of, 2.5 years of a very disrupted, very different
Yeah.
work-life balance. And
COVID is
so
hiding in the background of all of this, right?
So we received this grant in April, and it was a really nice way to kind of have us basically refresh that. I mean, we've always encouraged, take your lunch break, take your vacations. But to have now new tools, new equipment available in the office for people to sort of remind them that there are ways that you can be healthy during the workday. There are things you can do to kind of interrupt your sitting at a computer desk job, just to take a mental break. I think the timing for the grant and for when we were introduced to SHIP made a huge difference in helping us kind of regenerate that.
Yeah, I think, and that's something that I think has kind of resonated in my conversations with all of you and across the communities. Like, this might not be the right fit for you right now, but there's always an opportunity to kind of approach this later. And Casey, you said that you'd heard about it, and then you forgot about it, and then you heard about it again, right? And if you had heard about it the first time and it was a good opportunity then, maybe it would have stuck. But things happen, things change in the workplace. But so how's it worked for you all at K-Mama?
Yeah, at K-Mama Sauce, we have a lot of aspirational goals. So our mission statement is, we create good sauce, good jobs, and social good. So those, we do those things sometimes, not all the time, but again, it's aspirational. But I feel like SHIP allowed us to live into some of the policies and systems that we've always not only dreamt of, but we really wanted to manifest, and we just either didn't have employees or didn't have the resources. But now, this opportunity comes along and fills that gap, and it really allowed us to, propel ourselves, living into good jobs, right? As much as the sauce is great and all the other stuff, but now I think it just made that gap filling a lot smoother, as others have mentioned, and. You always need as a business owner or, nonprofit person, like you always have to have like 5-10 steps ahead. And having thought those things out in the past, this was like, oh, now this piece can fit here.
Yeah.
And I think that was the beauty of it is now we're, like I said, just the implementation piece.
Sure.
Is really great on the policies and systems.
Yeah, and so thinking about this, Casey, so kind of going a little bit off the beaten path here. So you went to business school, right?
I did not.
You did not?
I did.
Okay, so you didn't go to business school?
No.
I thought you did. You haven't as either.
I have not been in business school.
So that's great. So
Yeah.
that kind of really leads this next piece. So, I've often heard that this is not even a priority in business school, right? That workplace
Yep.
wellness is not a priority, that employee well-being is not a priority, that it really is on, how do you innovate the fastest, return the most to your shareholders, and, wring the most out of this stone that you've decided to pick up as you can. But it sounds like kind of learning as you go and working with your employees and giving them the agency and the tools. That sounds like that's just something you learn by doing.
Oh, absolutely. As we've been growing, it becomes very obvious as you build a team that the healthier and the happier your team is, that the healthier and happier your customers are. Yeah. So our purpose at Iceberg Web Design, my goal is to create a workplace where people love to come to work. And so we try to do everything that we can to support that. And this just falls right in with it.
It does. And, I think with Anoka SHIP, giving us the resources to be able to do that made a huge difference, because as a nonprofit, even as an entrepreneur or business owner, is unfortunately sometimes it does fall to the bottom of your priorities. But having someone be able to give you those resources to do that, and we all know it's happy people make a better work environment, business environment, all of it, and it all works together. So your business is more profitable because everybody's happy.
Yeah.
It's it all works together.
Well, next time I'll stack the bench with a bunch of MBAs. Well, tell me I'm wrong. But for now, I think this is it's inspiring for me to see that you don't need something like that to prioritize your people, right? And to know that it's the right thing to do. So that's really cool to hear.
And I just want to jump in.
yeah,
Cole,
yeah.
Cole, I think the newer generation, Gen Z and after, it's not only a priority. I feel like this exercise of doing SHIP with Anoka County has helped us reframe that it's not like kind of a side little thing that we're going to implement and it's going to make everything better. It's actually people start with that.
Yeah.
If mental illness and taking mental days off, that's a frequent happening, which it is for a lot of my corporate friends, that's taken away from your profits. And the more sick leaves you need to take, and the personal days and mental days off, I think the younger the people, they realize mental health and wellness is at one and the same as your wellness in general. So like you have to completely reframe work, including mental wellness and health.
That's huge. That's really cool to hear. But we talk about a lot of our employees. Susan, you've got like a full army of volunteers.
Yes.
Right? And that was one thing we talked about, and we talk about with a lot of our nonprofits is like, yeah, you've got your employees, right? And you got your core group, bigger than I thought, right? But still, a lot of these places, whether it's a food shelf or some sort of service organization, you're going to have exponentially more volunteers that you're working with
Yes.
than you're going to have paid staff, right? And so those people are giving their time. When you were considering what you wanted to do for wellness, how did you position what the Arts Center might be able to offer for its volunteers rather than just the employees? Because I know you considered both of them.
I did, and I'll tell you, it's one of those things that in talking with the volunteers, and I thought about my days as a volunteer. Like, why did I volunteer for an organization? What did it do in the community? What's it going to do for me? And so it was a combination. I talked to the volunteers, too. Like, I've been thinking, when I started the community garden, I actually had talked to some of our volunteers and said, hey, guys, how would you feel about a community garden? And they're like, oh, my God, I would volunteer immediately.
That's awesome.
And we ended up having volunteers who did all of the garden. One of the volunteers, she actually belongs to a nonprofit seed saving
Like a
type.
seed bank sort of thing?
Yes,
Seed
and
library?
so she
Very cool.
did seeds, but it was looking at the volunteers going, okay, you guys, I want to do some things for our community, for everybody here.
Yeah.
So we created the community garden upstairs. The volunteers take care of it. We actually put a space in for them as well, where we have seating. So if they need to take a break or want to take a break, they can also go out. We have outside seating, and we made available any of the vegetables, herbs, et cetera, that we're growing for the volunteers. We said, if we do this, would it be a benefit for
Yeah.
you? And it was the same with the yoga class. Do you see this as a benefit? You come in here for whether it's 2 hours a week or 5 hours a week. Why do you come in here? What would make it even more exciting for you to come or want to come in here? And so with the SHIP program, by offering these, and they said, well, yoga would be nice. I would take yoga classes, and I think sometimes with people that volunteer, there is a majority that volunteer because that's the way they can give back.
Sure.
Maybe it's not monetary, but they can give their time. And I think it's really important if someone is going to give their time, that you're able to give back to them something as well.
Yeah.
So,
That's huge. And that's, it just struck me now that it's kind of a return to form for the building itself, having been a dairy building before, and now it's back to kind of agriculture and growing
Yes, it is.
and kind of feeding our community. It's
well,
very cool.
And one of the other owners, business owners in the building, saw the garden, and she said, do you think we could do a garden down? There's some more space available. She goes, do you think we could do a garden down here? And I said, well, let's make sure we can get the rooftop one done. And then I said, then we can add another community garden. And I think, when it talks about mental health, wellness, all of that, feeding your family comes into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by making, having the community volunteer and do things like that, and then making what you grow for free, makes a huge difference for everybody.
Yeah.
Eating healthy is expensive.
Yeah.
Why?
And while we're on this garden piece, let's bounce over the gardens at Church of All Nations, but in K Mama Sauce. So, like, it's pretty remarkable that you're sharing this physical space with not only this kind of the church, but other organizations. And I know when we had our conversation, a big piece of that was, what can we do with K Mama that's going to benefit your neighbors and your community in that space?
Yes.
How has kind of your priorities and your intentions towards wellness and well-being for your team, how is that kind of rippling out into the kind of the organization that you're kind of housed within and supporting, and the folks who are there every day for reasons other than hot sauce?
Yeah, thankfully, I think we were thinking synergistically as even before SHIP offered this opportunity, just because we have the kind of the opposite problem of aging churches. There's too many people that are involved, a lot of young people. Not every church, but certainly our church, a lot of our folks are between 20 and 40, and they have more free time than they have money. So I think that allowed us to really think more intentionally and collaboratively. I think that was the big thing, is being very intentional about spaces. Would allowed us to think, okay, not just the most benefit for K Mama Sauce, but the most benefit for the most people. So we got this really amazing filtered.
We did a bottle filling station.
Yeah, bottle filling station,
Yeah.
which was you just think, oh, it's just you fill your water bottle, but it's really handy to have in specific locations where people are working outside in the garden, working downstairs in our warehouse, working inside in our office, and it's just you want that convenience, and that was. It's just a simple thing, expensive, but very simple, that allowed us to think, okay, a lot of people will benefit this. And same with our break room dining table that kind of folds up with the chairs. It's a yoga space and a dance studio at different times, but it becomes our lunch space. And just to kind of have that, just the break, the mental break from all the work, just to go to a separate space, fold that baby up, get your lunch going, and then come back. So not just our table, but anyone who needs to use that table at different times has been really, just a great resource.
Yeah. That's really cool, because I know one thing that we've all talked about is, how can we make the healthy choice the easy choice for your folks, right? Because I think we all have the intention and the vision, like, we want to do right by our community, we want to do right by ourselves, and we want to do right by our bodies too, right? But if you have to choose between, this thing that is hard and this thing that is easy, well, it is, if we can make the healthier choice the easy choice, like with a bottle filling station, that's huge. And with Jesse, so we're talking, one of the things we've kind of skirted around is this bike library, right? So when we're talking about kind of the making the healthy choice the easy choice, how has, if you had a lot of folks who are biking in before and are driving in now, how is having access to kind of an active way to get around the community, how has that made the healthy choice the easy choice at Iceberg?
Yeah, so lunch is a big deal in our office. I don't know about the rest of you, but
I eat lunch every day, actually.
I mean, the lunch conversations start around, 9 o'clock in the
Oh, my
morning.
goodness,
no.
So having the ability to physically get up, leave the office, and, a couple of people take the bike out
Yeah.
to lunch has made it
so fun.
has made it so much easier for us to, utilize that. You can't walk. You can walk to a lot of places downtown Anoka, but you can bike to a lot more places in the greater community. And even just, hey, I brought a lunch today, but maybe we should head up the path and eat our bagged lunch not in the office today.
Sure.
Just having the presence of some of this equipment there. We also try to, stock the fridge from time to time with healthy snacks if we can. I buy, waters for the fridge, and I don't buy sodas for the fridge, and so it's kind of free reign.
That's that policy piece.
It's,
systems
yes.
piece. It's like, that's just not how we do things.
Fridge, the fridge food, unless it's your lunch and you brought it, everything in that fridge is fair game, and shared with everybody, and people will bring in contributions to that, and so making it just available, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you said, make the healthy choice the easy choice.
Yeah.
Just having it there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're gonna, we got to wrap up here, but I want to leave folks who are watching today with some ideas of how they could get started or maybe approach this conversation in their own workplace. So each one of you, we'll work our way backwards from the beginning. So Casey, and what would you leave folks with who maybe want to get this started or maybe aren't sure where to start, whether they own a business or they're working somewhere, they're volunteering somewhere?
Yeah, I'd say have conversations. If you're an employer, certainly start those conversations. I love that people took surveys or took that time to really reach out and gather that information and do their research in terms of workplace wellness. I think that it's just an eye-opening experience, and you can't benefit enough from that. So my wife and I, we really take stock, not just how we're feeling, but every one of the people that step through the doors in our office and the warehouse and the factory. And I'd just say, as you start to look through that, not just data, it's, these are human beings that, and many of us mentioned families. So you take those numbers into consideration, and you try to do the best that you can for them, as you would your own, blood-related family, and hopefully you get to move on the best and easiest, hopefully, priority and solution.
Very cool. Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what's out there as a business owner until you start looking for it. And so there are so many great programs available for small business owners, and we have been super lucky to find Anoka County SHIP. And just having open, honest conversations with your employees, like Casey said, what do you need? How can we support you in your life so that you perform better at your job? Are you family planning? How can we make it easier for you to have young children at home? How can we make it easy for you to maybe bring your young children to the office if they need to? What can we provide for your work life, but also your family life, and just to keep you happy, healthy, and engaged.
Yeah. And Susan?
Well, I think it's kind of starts with yourself. Like, what would make me a better person for the people I work with? What options and choices can I give them to make it healthier, happy, et cetera, environment for them? I think that's kind of one of those things. When you just said about children, one of our teachers today and yesterday brought her 2-year-old daughter to work today. Yep. And
awesome.
her knowing that she could, because she didn't have a sitter, her husband was in meetings. We're like, oh yeah, bring her. Of course, I'm like, bring her every day. So her knowing that she didn't have to stress about, what am I going to do? I can't bring her to work.
Yeah.
Huge. So I think it's when people realize they have choices, that it makes everything easier in the long run for everybody. Having all of those choices and options create just a good environment,
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, Casey of K Mama Sauce, Jesse of Iceberg Web Design, and Susan of the Rum River Arts Center, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And most importantly, I know folks who are watching this are going to appreciate just hearing from local folks who are doing things in their community about how they can really make the healthy choice easy choice. And I just want to say, if you're interested in learning more about programs like this, I encourage you to reach out to ourselves directly with Anoka County Public Health, or visit us online at goanokacounty.org, and you can get connected with myself or any other one of our wonderful health professionals who are ready to help make the healthy choice easy choice for your organization, community, and home going forward. So again, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. And until next time, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Cool.